Yeah, so how we found Industry Week so far. I mean, it's been great. You know, we had a session this morning. It's one of two sessions that we've got going on today. So this morning was a keynote. Loads of students there, or early in the morning, but we've still got loads of nice questions, loads of interaction, etc. That was great. And then we've got a workshop this afternoon, which means that people can come and actually get involved and sort of use the technology. So it's great. And just to be, when you look at the lineup of the people that you've got appearing over this week, it's amazing. So it's great for us to be here and be represented within that. I think it's really important for students to be able to engage with people from the industry, because I think, there's many different roles and many different things that you can take part in the music industry and the creative industries as a whole. So actually having that kind of industry foot into your courses and allowing students to get that engagement, ask questions, and aspirationally sort of see some of the things that they might not have considered before. So I think it's really, really important, and I'd imagine kind of helps all of the other elements of the learning process as well. Yeah, I mean, to go out and to use the equipment that you guys have got here. Firstly, you've got great setups here, all over the place. Every studio's really well kitted out, so that's really important. But then also to be able to go out and work with other people as well. Some of the industry folk that are coming through. So being able to go out and do almost work experience type of things. I think it's really valuable for the individuals, for the students, but it's also really valuable for for us as a creative business, like having new talent coming through and being able to work with our technology and kind of work on some of the commercial projects that we're involved in is really, really valuable. So yeah, I think it's great. So Digit Music, we're a record label, we're a digital instrument manufacturer, and we deliver kind of creative learning experiences. And for me, it was really about that kind of democratization of music making. Really, it was working with young people who might not have access to traditional instruments through their own personal circumstances. It was important for us to create a pathway for them to be able to engage in making music. For many reasons, the cultural benefits, the human story, but actually, even if somebody doesn't have kind of any awareness of disability, just knowing that every single person has the opportunity to make music or to get involved in the creative industry, just means, as a society, we get the potential for the best music and the best kind of creative output. And for people to kind of, to get that joy of playing music together or producing a piece that you love, it was important for us to be able to facilitate that. Yeah, so we deliver quite a lot of training provision, and I think the responses are really good, particularly that kind of initial response. If somebody's had barriers to being able to engage in making music, and then you provide them with a tool and a framework so that all of a sudden they can, and not to any kind of tokenistic level, to a professional level, to be able to get in and start playing with their friends, seeing that response, seeing the smiles, and then seeing that all the way through to people that we work with now that are, friends and colleagues that kind of came up through that route. It's the response is generally good, and long may it continue, and we want to do much more of it. I think there's a lot of barriers to kind of diversity, inclusion, and kind of ensuring that the tools and kind of frameworks are there, and I think they kind of come from the technological barriers, which are largely kind of defunct now. Technology's come on so much that it's kind of a societal thing that we just need to design the right tools to enable people to do the things that they want to do. I think there's a lot of bias as well. I think that if somebody sees that there's somebody in a wheelchair there doing something, they assume that it might not be for them. So I think there's, and that's not any slight on anybody. I think it's just a kind of a societal thing. People aren't necessarily aware of the importance of inclusivity, and things can be put into kind of silos. And I think that representation as well, it's, I think for that young disabled person that's coming up, or that young person that hasn't necessarily kind of developed the prerequisite skills to play music, they see somebody on stage that doesn't sort of look like them or kind of come from a similar background, and they see that it's not for me. Whereas that's not the case. Creativity is for everybody. Everybody's got it in them. It's just whether people decide or feel they want to kind of go down that path with it. So there's kind of a few things that we want to tackle. That representation things, try to knock down some of the biases, but actually really to create technology that ensures that people aren't disabled by the tools that are put in front of them, essentially. 100%. I think technology has a huge impact in making organisations inclusive. I think the technology and the kind of supporting material that comes along with that technology, so that a young person can still work to the same syllabus as somebody that isn't using inclusive or accessible technology. But yeah, technology I think is at the forefront, and we're kind of at that golden age now. You know, the power of computers and the power of technology, and the kind of the fact that the tools are out there. I think it's a golden age, and we're starting to really see a big turn in that. People being able to now, the cost of equipment coming down, the power of that equipment flying up, and also just the kind of routes to commercialisation, or the routes to being able to get your music out there. You know, there aren't these kind of gatekeepers now that, you know, you've got to be signed to a label, you've got to have this dev deal, and you've got to do this, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. You know, with somebody can get a piece of equipment relatively cost effectively, they can create a piece of music and they can get it out there. And if it catches at the right time and sort of gets that, gets listened to by the right people, I think that's a huge thing for the industry as a whole. Obviously, you know, it means that there's quite a lot of stuff coming through, and it means that you have to sift through more things. But I just think that the overall kind of quality increases because anybody is able to do it, and it's not just somebody deciding, yes, okay, we're going to push you forwards. So again, yeah, it's really exciting. You know, you've got a whole studio with all the emulations and everything you could ever want just sitting on a laptop at home these days. Some of the highlights of my career. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know really. I guess you know, I've played a few nice shows and things, you know, done Glastonbury and all of these bits, and had things synced to film and TV, but I've never been, you know, up at the upper echelons of that side of things. I think where it's really landed for me is kind of developing this technology and pushing this company forward that is enabling other people to take those first steps into music. So, you know, I still go out and tour, and I've still got record releases, and I still get music synced to TV and things like that. It's great, you know, and I really enjoy that side of it. I really enjoy the creative side of it. But I think what's really landing for me at the minute, and what I'm really feeling as a benefit, is being able to open up some of those pathways for other people. And, you know, with the view that come, you know, 5-10 years time or whatever, we might have some music out there, and people, you know, that are well known sort of stalwarts in the industry that have come up through our pathways. You know, I think that's a really, really exciting thing. You know, from a technology point of view, I'm just excited by what we can do with technology now, and how can we get more people into the top of this kind of creativity funnel. That's something that really interests me. I'm always going to make music. I'm always going to sit in a studio, you know, for as long as I can, writing music. But yeah, I've got a lot of interest in that kind of opening up the pathways, and sort of making more people aware that this is for them, and being a sort of creative, and being a musician, and sort of forging your own path is something that's possible for everybody, and definitely many more people than it has been over the last, you know, 20, 30 years or whatever. Oh, these are big questions, aren't they? Yeah, so who would I most like to collaborate with? Yeah, I mean, there's loads of people. I mean, I absolutely love Bonobo. Like, I love Bonobo, so I know it's a bit of a, you know, sort of go-to answer. But yeah, I've in terms of the music that I write, he's somebody that I've, you know, always kind of wanted to work with. You know, you've got people like Amon Tobin and things like that as well, that are just ridiculously good sound designers. Yeah, I mean, there's many people out there that I'd like to work with. Obviously, people like Bjork as well, you know, that are just crazy on the technology side of things as well. That'd be really, really interesting. But you know, things that we have done that I quite like is going out of, I'm very much in the sort of electronic music world, but going into that traditional music world and working with orchestras as well. So we've done a couple of things with the BBC Philharmonic, but there's talk of potentially doing a project with the LA Philharmonic as well, which I think could be really interesting, and kind of taking that traditional world, sort of folding it into the electronic world and seeing what comes out. I think that's quite an exciting place to be. Right, okay, what is my parting shots, my piece of advice for students? Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. Keep doing what you're doing, obviously working hard at what you're doing, but actually look at all of the many different facets of the industry. I didn't think I'd be doing this. You know, I didn't think I'd be running a company that built digital instruments. Like, that wasn't where I thought I'd go with it, but I'm finding a lot of enjoyment and a lot of success in that area. So I think, you know, even down to the kind of creative work that I do a lot of mix work now, whereas I never thought I'd necessarily be a mix engineer. So I think it's try to get as much much experience in as many sort of areas of the industry as you can, of the industries really, sort of music industries, creative industries as a whole. Get as much experience across the board as you can. Take any opportunities, and you might end up in a role. To be honest, there's going to be roles out there that are huge roles within the industries that aren't here now. There's massive roles within the industry that didn't exist 10 years ago. So I'd say, yeah, just have a go at everything, try it all and see what you enjoy and just stick at it. And also, if somebody tells you no, it's not good enough, if you believe it is, just, don't listen to them, keep doing what you're doing.